Welcome to Unplugged Live with Dr. Diane Smith-Clark, PhD. Get ready to get inspired by the stories of overcoming life's challenges to bring change and transformation. Here's Dr. Diane.
Welcome back to Unplugged. I'm your host today, Dr. Diane Clark, and I'm so glad that you tuned in. Listen, this whole month we've been focusing on money and finance because everybody needs to improve or wants to improve the financial flow in their lives. Now, I would like for you, if you're tuning into the broadcast, to like, share, or subscribe. Let me know that you were there. If you enjoyed the information that you were getting, I appreciate it so much because the algorithm with your responses is what causes us to reach the audiences that we need to reach. So thank you in advance for doing that. All right. I'm sure you're excited about tonight's show. Last week we had Michael Norman on, and he was talking about the algorithm of wealth. Tonight, I want to introduce you to Sebastian Eskagi.
Close enough.
And I am going to let him tell you about stocks for dummies.
All right. Hey, thank you so much for having me on here. Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing well. All this month, I wanted to inform the listening audience, the TV viewing audience, about finances and money. We've covered different aspects about money, and I want you to give us some information about how we can get involved with stocks.
Great. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, and it's good that you've been focusing on this month because it really is such a big thing in everyone's lives. It's very easy to say that money is not a focus or you don't really need money to be happy. And although those things are true, money is freedom. Having a lot of cash flow means that you can have the freedom and the peace of mind, more importantly, to do whatever you want. That was my biggest focus early on in life, was thinking, I don't want to stress out every time I travel about finance and cash, right? And I realized that the biggest cause of stress when it comes to finances is the fact that we often think about money in an additive way, right? When you think about money in an additive way, you're looking at your paychecks and you're making plus $1,000 every week, right? Plus 1,000, plus 1,000, plus 1,000. But one thing remains true is you have to keep working for this cash, right? And well, you stop working, you stop getting paid. So I'm going to share my screen here for a moment, and I'm going to move down over to this here slide I have for you guys. So this slide that I'm showing here, if you guys can see, shows what the difference is between an additive money mindset and a multiplicative money mindset, right? When you're working for cash, you're making plus 1,000 or whatever your paycheck is every week or every 2 weeks or however it is, right? The issue with this is, like I said before, you stop working and you, of course, stop getting paid. Now, additionally, and this is something I really want to clarify, whatever you're getting paid from someone else, you're getting paid from an employer the minimum amount of money that they're willing to pay you. And that's so important to realize. If you go to your boss and you tell them, could you pay me less? They're going to jump in joy and gladly give you a smaller paycheck, right? If you ask them for more, you're going to have to convince them for that, right? And that should tell you everything you need to know about working for someone else, right? When you're working plus 1,000, plus 1,000, plus 1,000, when you're managing your money additively, you can see here, it would take you 1,000 paychecks, which is equal to over 20 years, to get up to $1 million, right? Now, that's just an ambiguous amount that I put there, $1 million. But keep in mind, you're never going to achieve a substantial amount of cash when you're working additively, right? It would take you 20 years, and that's without spending a penny, which is obviously not possible, really, right? Now, when you talk about multiplying, that's where we start getting into things like stocks and investing, right? Any form of investing is multiplying money. So you stop working and trading time for money, and suddenly now you're trading money for money, right? That's what multiplying your income is. And you can see here, what I have illustrated here is if you double $1,000 just 10 times, you make $1 million, and there's $24,000 extra that you have there, but I didn't really mention those. But that's only 10 times. You only have to double $1,000 10 times. You don't need to work 20 years and save every penny to make $1 million if you can just multiply your income. That's where investing comes in. And this applies to everything, whether it's investing in real estate or whatever, but I specialize in talking about stocks. So that's what I'm going to be mostly going over today. Getting started over here, we're going to be talking about just a basic definition of the stock market, right? All you're really doing is buying fractions of a company for their current price and selling it later for a higher price. That's the goal in mind. You buy low, you sell high, whether it's Apple, whether it's Facebook, Netflix, iTrade, and all of those, they all have so much potential for profit, right? Now, this is the first and biggest misconception that most people have. What causes the stock market prices to fluctuate? You've seen the charts. You've seen one day Apple's up $20, one day it's down $10. What's causing all of this movement, right? And more importantly, how do you profit from this? How do you use this to your advantage to double those $1,000 and then double them again and then again? And before you know it, you're living off of this stuff, right? Well, here's the key. It all starts with understanding what affects the prices. And most people are under the impression that stock market prices have to do with the economy or how well or how poorly the company is doing. And yes, those things do affect the prices, but those are all indirect factors. The only thing that directly affects the stock market prices are how many people are buying or selling shares of that stock, which is why you see things like what happened with GameStop in 2021. A lot of people decided to buy shares. And so it skyrocketed. A company that had nothing going for it at the time, it was doing really nothing for its investors, suddenly spiked up in price. Why? Again, the investors control everything. If people buy, it goes up. If people sell, it goes down. Once you understand that, it becomes a lot easier to do to profit in the market in general. So let's talk about what that means and more importantly, how you can use that to start multiplying your income. Well, this means that your job is not to predict the future or to, be a guru, a stocks guru that knows everything that's going to happen next. No. None of that stuff is necessary. If that was the case, investing would be a lot like gambling. And we know that there's millionaires in this world that have achieved those millions through investing in something or another. So we know it's not gambling. We know it has to do with a skill. There has to be something that you can improve at and use to your advantage. And this is it. It's not about predicting the future or predicting what's going to happen next. No, instead, it's about predicting what other investors are going to do. And this is so important because you realize all of a sudden that investing is a very almost psychological game. This is why people tell you have to buy low and sell high. Because when the market hits a low point or when Apple goes down, everyone and every investor is thinking, let me buy here that it's at a low point and I can maximize my profit later. I can boil down investing to that simple phrase, buy low, sell high, but there's obviously a lot more that comes into it, which I'll be more than happy to teach anyone. But that's just a simple way of envisioning how you multiply cash through the stock market. Now, what I have here is different ways of investing. So you've got your long-term stocks, you're holding on to your bonds or your futures or whatever. Then you've got your short-term stuff, right? Now, both are good. I do teach how to do both. That's very important. But I mostly prioritize on short-term. And the reason why is because long-term is a very passive game. You should absolutely do long-term. It's always good practice, but you're not going to see anything substantial coming in from long-term for quite a while. And like I was saying earlier, you want to focus on being able to multiply your income as soon, as quickly, and as safely as possible, right? And that's where short-term really comes in. Now, let's talk about the pros and cons of long-term. Long-term is overall less risky. It's easier to do. If it's done right, it can make you a lot of money, right? What's good about long-term is it's almost like it's in the background. It's always making you money. You should think about long-term like a second savings account, right? So the reason why investing is so important is not just because of all the reasons I just mentioned, but also because of the fact that inflation, we all know inflation. It's spiking up. It's not going to stop anytime soon. That stuff is eating away at your savings a lot too. $1,000 that you had saved up from 20 years ago is worth less now than it was back then. The housing market's gone up. The price of food and groceries has gone up. Everything has gone up. So that money that you had before is suddenly worth less. How do you beat inflation? Long-term investing. Treat it like a second savings account. If you're not going to touch those savings anyway, might as well have them working for you. That's the biggest difference. If you've ever read a book like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the first thing that he teaches is the rich don't work for money. The rich have money working for them. This is a prime example of that exact principle. Now, if it's done right, long term will make you a lot of cash. But let's talk about some of the disadvantages and why you wouldn't want to only rely on long term. Okay, long term is very good, but that money's locked up in there for quite a while, right? It's very slow. You might have to wait many years before you start to see anything significant. There is still some risk that is carried with it, mind you. It is very important for you to learn how to properly do long term, which I also teach, and ways to speed up your profit, to minimize risk as much as possible, all of those things. Now, I teach you how to do dividends as well. And dividends, for those of you who aren't aware, is when companies pay you every couple of months just for holding on to their shares. A great example of a company that does this is Bank of America. They pay quite a bit of dividends. So just by holding on to the shares in the long term, not only is that money already growing in the market, but you're also getting paid just for having it in there every couple of months. This is a great source of passive income at an early level, right? So that's dividends. I teach how to do all of that stuff. Now, another big disadvantage of long term, though, back to the cons, is that the money is very locked in there, as I was saying before. You can sell whenever you want and take that money for yourself, absolutely anytime. The issue is that if you do that, naturally, the money stops gaining value from whatever company it's in, right? Now, the issue with that is all of a sudden, whatever you had that was growing is no longer growing, right? So it's most beneficial for you to keep it in there just as long as you possibly can. 10 years or so, it should be good. But it's like I said, it's very slow. That's where short term comes in. And that's what I mostly specialize in. Short term kind of negates the disadvantages of long term. It does a very good job at this stuff. And the reason why is because it kind of fills in the gaps. It's almost like these are two puzzle pieces perfectly coming together, right? The disadvantages of short term are covered by long term and vice versa. So let's talk about the pros of short term. The main advantage is the fact that you make money a lot faster, right? It's a lot more profitable. It's a lot faster. Like I was saying, back to the $1,000 that you need to double, right? It's very quick to double that money. I've done it as soon as I've ever hit doubling my cash. I've done it overnight some days. And it's not a rare thing to happen. It's not difficult. It just takes a little bit of skill. And I'm not one to promise results because I believe that anyone who tells you about their get rich quick scheme is almost always lying to you, right? I believe in teaching you 0 to 100, what you need to do to achieve these steps and giving you consistent and realistic results. I work with all of my guys very closely one-on-one to help them achieve this exact thing, getting very profitable cash very quickly. And again, returning to multiplying that income rather than just adding paychecks back to back and having to subtract whenever you have groceries and things like that to pay for, which again, inflation is driving the prices of that stuff up like crazy. Now, another big advantage of short term is how free that money is. So, like I was saying with long term, it's very locked in. You can't really do much with it until you go to get, cash out. With short term, it's the opposite. You cash in, you profit, you cash out, and whatever you want to take out from your trading account, you can take out. I live off of this. I just quit my job to do full trading and run this business, and I'm only 20, but this is my life. I trade, and the profits that I earn from trading are enough for me to fully sustain myself at will. It's essentially when you get proficient at trading, it's a very good skill to get good at. I would argue one of the most important. When you get good at it, you're essentially generating money from money, making money essentially out of thin air. And that's why it's so powerful because it's so quick. It's so free, the cash that comes in, that you can pop it in, profit, pull it out. And let's say you need whatever X amount of dollars a month. You can just pull that out of your trading account and whatever's left over, you keep trading with and build that amount back up. That's what professional traders do. That's what I do. And that's what I look to teach to do. So another huge advantage of short term is your growth of your trading account. It's going to become exponential. It's going to snowball. And the reason I choose that word exponential is because in the short term world, right? Again, we're talking about multiplication, right? When you're talking addition, you grow, your cash grows in a linear fashion. It's very steady, but very slow. Now, when we're talking short term or just any form of investing, really, now we're talking about a more curved line. It's a little bit more powerful, right? And the reason why is because when you profit in the market, you don't take a dollar amount home. In short term, you take a percentage amount home. So let's say Apple goes up $1. You're not making $1 in profit. You can be making upwards of 30, 40%, depending on how you arrange your contract to buy. So what does this mean? 40% profit, let's say, of $500 isn't anything crazy, right? But okay, now you have, let's say, $700. Okay, 40% of that is more substantial. 40% of 1,000, okay, that's even bigger. 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and it just keeps growing that way, and it keeps speeding up because you're taking home, again, percentage amounts of profit. What you're doing with your account, the money that you have in there is going to start to snowball. And if you ask me, Sebastian, how do you get rich, right? I'll tell you, you got to snowball that cash. You got to multiply it. You got to let the money work for you. You can't sit around and waiting for things to come to you or waiting for other people to pay you. Because like I said before, employers, bosses, all those people, they will pay you just enough for you to be satisfied, just enough for you to get by, really, but they will never pay you. If you ask them, hey, can I have enough money to go on a vacation? They're not going to pay you for that. That has to come from you. No one can cap how much money you make for yourself. That's the biggest realization I had when I started this journey. If I ask for cash, they're only going to give me a certain amount. If I'm asking myself for cash, I can do whatever I want. I can grow however much I want. And that's the biggest change I had to make in my life. And here's where it is. And finally, of course, what I was saying before is the last and biggest advantage of short term is if it's done right, you can do it as a living. Typically, I like to frame short term as something that will help you multiply your income on the side and use it to do whatever you want, really different things, right? Personally, I think it can be done as its own thing. It absolutely can. But I know some people have different goals and dreams. Maybe your dream is to travel the world. Maybe your dream is to run your own business. Maybe your dream is to buy and flip houses or do whatever you want. At the end of the day, this is a vehicle to all of those things. It's even a vehicle for itself. Like I said, this can be its own thing. Trading, you can do that for a living as well, like I do. But it can fuel whatever you need. It's very, very difficult to do much of anything in this country without a strong cash flow coming in, right? I mean, think about how easy it would be to build a car or to buy a car, for example, right? If instead of paying $30,000 out of pocket, you put in $1,000 into the market, you grow it over time, and then you pay for the car out of profit, not out of pocket. That's the biggest thing I tell everyone. You want to be buying things not out of pocket because that comes from you, but out of profit, whatever you have left over. It's like imagine a cup filled with water. It's overflowing. You're not paying for things from the water that you put into the cup. You're paying from all the stuff that gets overflown because of how quickly you're amassing wealth. That's the goal. Now, there are disadvantages to long or to short term. Absolutely. It is without a doubt a riskier way of trading. Long term is, it's the most passive thing ever, right? Long term is like you're watching basketball. Short term is like you're playing it, right? You're playing a sport. And of course, when you're playing a sport, anything can happen, right? So it is risky and it does require for you to have a higher level of understanding. Now, my goal with Stocks Uni is to eliminate these two risks. There are ways to minimize and definitely lower substantially the amount of risk that you expose yourself to. And of course, I'm going to be teaching you every step of the way how to achieve that higher level of understanding in the stock market, right? So, do you have any questions so far?
Yes, you're giving us a lot of information, and I know there's some questions out there.
Absolutely.
I'd like to start with, say you invest $500.
Mm-hmm.
How do you choose what you're going to invest in? What's the best way to find your pot?
So great question. As a matter of fact, I tell people because oftentimes people are looking for the next big thing. right? So they look at things like, Bitcoin or Dogecoin or whatever, and then they, want to get rich quick, right? But I say to them, you don't need to look for the next big thing when you already have so many great things going on around you. Companies that are reliable, companies that, like Apple, Facebook, Netflix, Bank of America, right? And the beauty about what I do, which is specifically the form of trading that I do is called options trading, is I don't need to look for the next big thing. I can play inside of big, already well-known companies. So you put in $500 and, oh, you look at Apple and Apple is at a low point. Apple has a lot of room to go up. Easy. You buy in at the low point of Apple, you let everyone else take it up, and then you sell higher for profit. That's the name of the game. You don't need to look for the next big thing. You just find the opportunities in the already great companies that exist in the world.
So, is with everything that's going on around us, is it safe to invest in commodities or medicine, or what is one of some of the great things to invest in?
So great question. Actually, fantastic question. Yes, commodities do get stronger whenever things like tech companies are doing bad. For example, something that we sometimes invest in is GLD, which is gold, right?
Mhm.
It becomes a lot stronger, more predictable, and more profitable whenever everything else is doing poorly, because all the investors are almost migrating from all those other industries over
Mhm.
to commodities, which, hey, no matter what's happening in the world, gold is always going to be gold. Now,
Mhm.
one thing I do want to say to you, though, is a big concern for people is with the economy moving how it's moving, uh, investing is more risky. Now, although true, what I do in the options world, you can actually profit when the market goes down. So you don't only need to profit as it goes up. The most amount of money I've ever made overnight was during COVID because everything was dropping so aggressively at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I was buying a type of option contract called a put, which makes money as the market goes down instead of up. So I was just going to sleep, waking up, doubling cash every night. It was great.
Wow. I know a lot of people were blessed. COVID was, an awesome event that was so tragic that
Hmm.
happened. But out of that tragedy, many people were able to change their lifestyles. They were able to move to a different status in life from COVID. So, that testifies to the fact that stocks are risky. It's a risky investment, but you can profit also from something that's risky. You've got to tell us where we can get in touch with you, how we can contact you if we want to buy stock, or how do you work? How do you?
So everything that I do goes completely through stocksuni.com. And while I'm sharing my screen, I'll go ahead and share with you. And you brought up $500 too. So this is just an illustration here. It takes 11 moves with that $500 that you mentioned at 40% profit, just 11 to go to 20,000. Now, if you keep this going just a little bit longer, you will eventually get to that 1 million just as easily. But it takes 11 consistent 40% moves. And by the way, 40% profit is very reserved. It's very conservative. You can see here, I got people taking way more, 60%. This is a huge profit right here. This is doubling your cash. And just people overall doing great. In terms of contacting me, everything can be done through stocksuni.com. My number is on stocksuni.com and my email. You'll see it on the homepage. Additionally, there is a free lesson on that website to help people get started. Um, and everything you see here, this is what I do. Now, I am so proud, and I know it's like I'm proud of my own company, of course. But the reason I'm so happy with what I've done is because most other investors, actually every single other investor, will horribly overcharge you, take from your profit to sit down and teach you. And in a way, they almost have the right to because they hold all the power and the knowledge, right? So they're never going to step down. But I believe that it's important for everyone to learn this skill, and I want to provide the knowledge at an affordable rate. So you can contact me on stocksunion.com. Either way, there's a chat on there. As soon as you log into the website, you will see Discord chat. From there, I'm always interacting with everyone. I'm always texting everyone, telling everyone, hey, these are the opportunities for today, and so on and so forth.
So I bring you $500. How long? How many steps? I saw you had like 11 steps to 20,000. How many steps with 500 to get to 2,000?
to get to 2,000? Well, I've done it pretty quick. It depends, of course, on the trades that you make. But I have hit $2,000 in my account with $500 with only about 4 to 5 trades. I've done it with less as well. But it's not difficult. It's not a difficult thing to do. It comes down to identifying the right opportunity and, of course, a safe opportunity as well, right? Risk gets minimized a lot when you trade in an environment like I provide, but also when you know about strategies and indicators, which I teach about. So you find the right opportunity, you buy in, and we've had a couple lately. If you look at BAC and Starbucks right now, the stock charts, they have exploded. And I called out both of those moves before they happened. So everyone was able to take home huge profit. It's not difficult. It just requires a little bit of knowledge and commitment.
Wow. So what happens then is I come to the company, I pick a plan, and then I put my money into the plan. Then I have to watch the stock and move the money around, and or is that something you do, or is that something I know in banks they have investors and
yeah.
But do I have to sit and watch the tickers and know when to move and so forth? How does that work?
So yeah, good question. The biggest reason why I don't trade for you, right? And the biggest reason why I don't just I don't just do that is because I really believe in one saying. And the saying goes, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach him how to fish, you feed him for the rest of his life. I believe in giving people the tools to feed themselves, right? I do trade very closely with everyone. So I'm basically calling out whatever I do, and most people just copy whatever I do, and they take the same profits that I take home. So that is something that you have the option to do. But it does matter for me quite a bit to also be able to teach you. So yeah, you do move the money around on your own. But I will say this, the formula that I use to trade is not very time consuming at all. Even me, the stocks guy, I look at the charts a couple of times throughout the day. That's really it. Because I do something closer to what's called swing trading, which is, I'm not trading 7 times a day, glued to my charts, looking at this every minute of the day. No, more relaxed. I'm just here to identify the general move of the market. That's it. So very simple. Everyone does it. I used to do it from work. Most of my customers, they do it from work as well. Very simple.
Wow. So coming to your company, I'm going to learn how to manipulate my money in the stock market to increase it.
Yes.
Wow, that sounds exciting. I'm just wondering how much time am I going to devote to that? And you're saying twice a day you look at it and then you give tips on how to move your money or when you're moving your money and so forth.
Yes. And regarding how much you have to devote to it, it's really at your own pace. I have some people, because I do live one-on-one calls and I have lessons on the lessons on the website. If you want to learn quickly, you can absolutely do that. We do meet every morning from Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. That's where I just go over all the opportunities. Even if you can't attend those meetings, I call everything out in the Discord chat anyway. So really, you don't even need to look at the charts on paper. As long as you have your notifications turned on and you can receive messages from me, you have all the tools that you need. Now, I like what you said about how much time do I need to dedicate to this.
Yeah.
And I have this change curve right here, right? This just goes over sort of how it is when you start on a new endeavor, right? Oftentimes, things sound a lot better than they are. And that applies to everything, right? You have a lot of people selling different things. And it all starts with this uninformed optimism, right? As you learn more, you realize, hey, you know what? This stuff is it's a little complicated. It's a little difficult. It's not as easy as I thought it would be, right? And that's fine. Most people quit here. That's the biggest issue, right? Most people give up and then they never realize, it's a shame to live your life and never realize where you would have ended up if you just walked further down that path, right? It really is a shame. Now, where most people push through, where most successful people really make their name is right here, where it says hope. The reason why that's such an important step is because that's when you develop hopeful realism, and informed optimism. That's when you develop the knowledge that, hey, you know what, this is a little bit complicated. Maybe I'm not the biggest numbers guy or whatever, but it doesn't matter, right? Because if you push through a little bit, you realize that, hey, it's hard, but I can do it, right? Anyone can do this stuff. That's the beauty of it. The stock market is not a thing of talent. It's a thing of skill. That's what I care about most.
Right? Such as life. You can learn how to do a lot of things in life, but the person that becomes skilled is the one that profits. I've learned that you can, you say, I can drive a car because I can put the key in, crank it up, and go. But the
Mm,
skill to maintaining that, the skill to being a defensive driver, the skill to knowing how to respond in situations comes with practice, and it comes with developing a skill. There's a skill to everything in life that needs to be learned if you want to be successful at it. So
absolutely.
I see this as not being any different. Now you mentioned the did you say something about a chat or
Yes.
a
So
message thing? Okay.
we do use a Discord chat, right? Discord is similar to WhatsApp. It's just a lot more organized. So it allows me to subdivide a lot of different chats. So you have our public chat, our trades chat, which is only for when I buy and sell my stuff, right? Results chat, and things like that. It's all available from stocksuni.com, my website. You'll see the Discord chat link is up above.
Mhm.
And from there, you can pretty much get started. As soon as you sign up, you get access to all of the locked chats, like the trades chat. And from there, that's where the real money is made and where the magic happens.
Wow, it sounds so exciting. I'm sure there's someone in our TV audience that's listening and has wanted to always invest but was afraid because of
Mhm.
people who invested without skill and they didn't make money. So they call the whole thing, oh, it's useless. And then there are people like you who are living off of their investments. We certainly appreciate
Right.
you being on the show today. We're going to have to bring you back, Sebastian. This is really good information to know. I'm going to put your website is
Stocksuni.com.
stocksuni.com.
Yep. Stocksuni.com. Stocksuni as in university. So stocksuni.com. Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I'm running it across the screen so they can write it down and hopefully they'll get in touch with you and you will help all of us
Absolutely.
multiply our money. Wow. It's so great that you have become a skillful master at this and you're willing to teach others how to do it. We so appreciate you at 20. And I guess by 25, you will be a multi
Multi-the-dream.
millionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you keep moving like you're moving, next 5 years, that's going to be it for you. You won't be a poor millionaire with 3 million. You'll be a multimillionaire, yeah, with
That's the
30
dream.
million. Yeah. And I can see that happening because you're tenacious, you're smart, you're skillful, and you know your trade. So we appreciate you being on the
Thank
show
you.
today.
It's been my
We
pleasure.
certainly will have to have you back again because we enjoyed that little session that opened my eyes about a lot of things. And before we go, I want you to talk about mutual funds.
So cool. Now, mutual funds and stocks, and they're called oftentimes index funds. So things like the S&P 500,
Mhm.
those are mutual funds. So those are great long-term investments. Mutual funds are the S&P 500. They're essentially a pool of companies. So you ever heard the saying, "Don't put all of your eggs in one basket"?
One basket, yeah.
That's what it is. When you buy a mutual fund, you're putting your eggs in every basket that there is. The S&P 500 is a combination of the world's 500 biggest tech companies. Apple, Tesla, Facebook, even Netflix, they're all inside of it. So
Mhm.
you're really playing with a lot of strong, big names, and it's very easy to make consistent long-term profit that way. The S&P 500 has not dropped a significant amount that it has not recovered from. I think almost since it started way back in the 20s. So it's been really strong basically since its beginning.
Yeah, because I know in some communities they're familiar with mutual funds, but not with the short and long term stocks and how to really, I don't want to say manipulate, but maximize their skills, especially in the short term. But that's something very interesting that needs to be explored even more. And I thank you so much. I put your website and how to get in touch with you on the screen so that people can contact you. And Sebastian, I wish you all the best. And
I wish
thank
you
you
as well.
so much. So
Thank you.
you
It's been
have
a
a
pleasure, really.
terrific rest of your evening, and we'll invite you back. All right. This has been a really creative month for money. We're giving you a lot of information that will help you change your status financially. And I hope that you are taking notes from these broadcasts. The replays are out there on Facebook, Unplugged Live, also on YouTube, Instagram, every social media outlet. You can go and replay this information, especially if you're interested in multiplying your money. And if you're watching now, just put in the chat, I'm interested in maximizing my money. This is Dr. Diane Clark, and I am empowering the harvest. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week with more about money.
Thanks for joining us for Unplugged Live with Dr. Diane Smith Clark, PhD, helping to bring change and transformation in the mental health space within the church community. Dr. Diane wants to hear from you. If you have any questions, comments, guest recommendations, or program topic ideas, visit DianeUnplugged.com and click the Contact Us link. Dr. Diane also appreciates your prayers and your financial support. You can give online at DianeUnplugged.com and select Donate. If your business or ministry organization is interested in sponsoring this program, you can go to DianeUnplugged.com and click the Contact Us link. Unplugged Live is on all the social media platforms. Just search Dr. Diane Smith Clark, follow, and subscribe. Unplugged Live with Dr. Diane Smith Clark, PhD. Healthy mind, wealthy life.